Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my honorable colleague from New Westminster Burnaby. The speech was, of course, for him a while ago because he began it before question period began. I want to pause to say how very nice it is to see all of us friends gathered together, even if only by Zoom, and thank the Speaker for the chance to pose this question. I was taken by the honorable member's comments on the impacts of the Spanish flu and how long those impacts stayed with society. A personal point, my namesake, Elizabeth Evans Stevens, was a victim of the Spanish flu, and I can say that the intergenerational impacts of losing a young mother not only affected my grandmother, but my mother. This is a pandemic, the likes of which we haven't seen for generations, and its effects will be intergenerational. But my very strong support for the honorable member's speech is to his points on the banking industry with their extraordinary levels of profits, over $30 billion in profits through the pandemic. And yet this very industry is leaning on small business. In my own area, Wilson's Bus Lines is at risk of going under, not because the government programs that are on offer don't really meet their needs. Bus companies and other companies across Canada are at risk because these banks that have been raking in profits and have had government help seem to think they're not Canadian. They don't think they're part of our national effort to save businesses and save jobs. And I wonder if my honourable colleague has any comments on what this government should be doing to ensure that the banks don't push good, essential companies like Wilson's Bus Lines into bankruptcy.
For New Westminster Burnaby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member and wish her a happy New Year and thank her for the question. Yeah, this is what is inconceivable to me. $750 billion given in liquidity supports to Canadian banking industry and not any conditions whatsoever. We saw credit unions stepping forward and lowering their interest rates to zero. We saw credit unions stepping up and providing, in some cases, what was required around the suspending the payment of mortgages, and yet not imposing penalties. The banking industry didn't have any conditions at all imposed, and the result has been windfall profits of $30 billion and real pressure on businesses like Wilson's and others across the country. We need to take the best practices of other countries. Other countries said, well, if we're providing supports, there are going to be conditions. This government stepped up within days of the pandemic hitting. Their first thought was, let's help the banking industry. And $750 billion later, the banking industry is reaping massive profits. And so many Canadians and so many small businesses are struggling. And of course, with the Spanish flu, we know that the implications, the consequences will last for more than a decade for lower income families. The reality is the fall economic statement actually talks about cutbacks starting in next fiscal year, dramatic cutbacks over the next 13 months. We need this government to rethink its approach, and we're willing to work with them. We're just going to have time for one more.